Hey y'all, welcome back to this week's episode of AMA Friday with Amy Miller, Recruiting and Yoga Pants. So this week we are going to take our second look at recruiter outreach. So last week we talked about this. I created some templates for you guys. I got some general kind of thoughts, best practices, guidance around how you as a job seeker or recipient of some of these terrible recruiting messages may want to respond. So hopefully you found that helpful. If you've not checked that out, I will link to that up above so you can go see and read the blog post that goes with it. So I wrote something special for you. All right. This week I want to talk to my recruiter friends, okay? And this may be helpful for job seekers too. I mean, there's a little, I'll kind of peel back the curtain a little bit on how I do outreach, the kinds of messages that work really well for me. Hopefully this is just a starting point, again, food for thought for recruiters who might be wondering, well, how can I improve my messaging? What do people want to hear? Well, they're telling you, friends, okay? You really cannot scroll LinkedIn without seeing a handful of posts where people are just unhappy with us and our cold emails. So the truth is out there, y'all. You just have to embrace it and accept it. Okay, I know it's hard. So here's the thing. I do understand that there's going to be different kinds of recruiters that you're going to hear from. And the reason why that's important, I think for my agency friends, I know this was true for me when I was an agency, we are sometimes casting a wider net and looking for a variety of roles. And so what I mean by that is I might want to hit up a bunch of accountants because I've got 16 different accounting roles, right? And so I can kind of slot people into, maybe if you're senior enough, I could submit you for that one, or if you're a little earlier in your career, I could submit you for that one. So I understand, like I've done kind of that profile-based or persona-based sourcing where I'm just casting a big old wide net and I'm trying to talk to a bunch of people who could fit into one of several different roles in organizations. I will say, not my favorite approach. And even as an internal corporate recruiter, I could certainly do the same thing. I've got a lot of different flavors of engineer, for example, or a lot of different flavors of some of my high volume hourly technician type roles. And I honestly, over the years, I've just learned that I get a way better response and I work a lot. Well, I make my job easier when I take a more targeted approach. I'll put it that way. Okay? So, two big ideas this week. One, if we are not listening to our audience, we're doing it wrong. Point blank, period. I will not be taking any questions on this at this time. If you are not willing to listen to the people that you want to respond to you, I cannot help you. You might as well turn this video off and just go pour yourself a drink because I will be useless to you based on that, okay? So that's big idea number one. What do the people want? Big idea number two, how can I do this at scale? How can I do this without agonizing for a half hour over every individual email? Because I understand that is also not sustainable. We have to figure out some way in the middle where we can provide the right level of detail and the right level of personalization without, again, taking, 2 weeks to send a note to all 100 people that we think might be a fit. I understand choices have to be made, but let's make smart choices, okay? So what do people want? My friend Nick put this beautifully, so I'm gonna borrow his line a little bit here, and I'm actually gonna link to the post that he wrote down in the description, so you can go check that out. But it's location, compensation, And I think the third thing was motivation. I'm sorry, Nick, if I get this wrong, but all credit to you, my friend. Your post is linked down below. I'm pretty sure those are the three things. But I totally agree. And I feel like this transcends level, title, industry. Like, this is what people want to know. Where am I going to do this work? Especially as we're coming out of that remote first, everybody's trying to get us back in the office these days. So yeah, location matters. Do I get to keep working from home? Is this going to be a hybrid situation? Are you asking me to relocate? Like, those are important things that a job seeker is going to want to understand before they ever even consider responding to your outreach. Like, where will this job happen? We make this mistake in Texas all the time. Texas is big, y'all. Somebody who lives in San Antonio ain't commuting to Dallas unless you send them a private plane or a helicopter, okay? It's a big ass state. So these are the things that we need to be mindful of. And if there is relocation involved, does your company provide relocation support? Like, you need to lead with that stuff, or job seekers are just going to be annoyed. Going to compensation, that's also a very important one. We all work for money. I said this to a friend earlier, like, look, man, if I was independently wealthy and doing this for funsies, I'd have a lot more dogs, okay? I would not be limited because I'd have more space, I'd have a bigger backyard, I'd pay someone to pick up the poop for me. Like, if I were independently wealthy, we'd be running a dog rescue, not recruiting. And then finally, that motivation, like the way I'm interpreting this, sorry, Nick, if I'm getting this wrong, but this is my thoughts on it. Motivation is like, what makes this interesting? What makes this something that you should look into? What makes this worth you investing, creating a resume for, going through an interview process for? So we need to be able to share those things. We need to be able to like create a hook, right? And that hook needs to address the pain points of our audience. So if I were to make this really simple, this is me coming from, working with engineers, working in FANG for the last decade plus, working with really some of the smartest people I've ever met in my life. They ultimately care about two big things. You want to know what they are? Two questions. Do I get to work on cool shit? How much does it pay? That's it. Engineers are simple creatures. Tell them that they get to work on cool shit, explain what it is and why it's cool, and tell them how much money they're going to get for it. This isn't rocket science, people, but rocket scientists want to work on cool shit and want to get paid. Lead with that, and you're going to be head and shoulders above most recruiters. Just a fact. Because everybody else is saying, I came across your profile and I was really impressed with your background and I wanted to... And I fell asleep. Okay, so how does Amy Miller do this? So I don't source much these days. I will be the first to admit I have a phenomenal team of sourcing recruiters who do an amazing job and keep me in wonderful candidates. But when I am sourcing, I like a good campaign. I personally will do a 3-part touch point. I will send 3 emails. Now, I have a system that does enable me to create an automated campaign. What that means is that if someone responds to the first or second email, they will not get future emails. We've now started a conversation. I'm now manually able to go in there, keep that conversation going, move it to a phone call, what have you. You only get the second and then third email if you have not read the first or second emails. Okay, makes sense? So this is, I like automation when it's done right and used properly. We'll leave it at that. So what do my emails say? So first of all, I want to address the number. I already hear the screaming. Calm down, y'all. There's a method to my madness. But I have recruiting friends that will insist that no, you send 8, 10, 12, 14, you call that person until one of you is dead. And if that works for you, that is none of my business. Okay? I am just not that recruiter, and I don't want to be that recruiter. I'm happy for you if you are and it works for you. And I understand different industries are going to have, it's fine. It's none of my business. I'm simply saying what I do, and it's worked really, really well with engineers, at least. So do with that what you will. Email number 1. I'm trying to recruit you. I have no reason to play games or pretend that I'm doing anything but trying to get my hands on your resume and get you in front of my hiring manager. That is my goal. And so I will email you accordingly, and I will share like, hey, I think you could be great for this job. I saw these things on your background, or the research I did told me this about you. I don't know if it's a fit. I don't know if the timing is right. You may not be interested in, making a change right now, but in the off chance that there might be something worth exploring, here's what I want you to know about this job. And I touch on those 3 things, right? Like, this is the cool thing about the job. Like, here's maybe a motivation of why this is cool. Compensation, that's easy these days. I live in Washington. Pay transparency guideline is there, okay? I have nothing to hide. You can see our ranges. And then finally, I do let folks know, I recruit for hardware engineers. Our roles are on site and always have been, even through COVID. Like we had like class up and mask and the whole thing, but we were always on site, my engineers were. So I lead with that information, but I also follow it up with, and if this isn't for you, that's okay. I'd love to understand what you would want to hear about from someone like me. And that works pretty well because, again, I want to leave folks with a specific call to action. You can either be like, yep, this sounds interesting, I'm in, or you can be like, well, no, not this, but if you had something else, if you had something that paid this, if you had something in that location, if you had something that was, the next step in my career, I want to move into people management or whatever. I am opening the door for people to share with me what they want to hear about from someone like me. Because if you respond to me and say, no thanks, but I really want to do something completely different, I'll absolutely be like, cool, I won't have that for you. Good luck. But at least then we can close, just provide closure and get on with our lives. So that works really well for me. I want people to be able to opt in or out depending on their career goals and what I could realistically offer them now or in the near future. Okay, now let's say you get this lovely email and you decide not to respond. That's fine. That's your prerogative. I'm going to send you a follow-up email. And my follow-up email is going to be pretty straightforward. It's just going to be like, hey, I'm just checking in again. I know sometimes things get lost. Maybe you got busy. Maybe I wasn't interesting the first time around. I just wanted to try one more time. By the way, did you hear this news? And I'll try to add like maybe a cool article about what our program is working on, or a tidbit from the industry, or just something that I found interesting and something that I thought was like kind of cool and maybe spoke a little bit to what we're building, why it's impactful. Again, going back to that motivation. Why is this work cool? Am I going to work on something cool? What makes it cool, right? So I want to kind of tie that in. So let's say, in spite of my best effort, my second email did not interest you, and you didn't open that one either. Well, here comes my third and final approach, and this is where I say, so long, and thanks for all the fish. Bonus points if you get that reference. But I literally will say, hey, I'm just closing the loop here. Understand if this timing is off, maybe this isn't the role that lights you up. I just want to say thank you. If you have, anyone in your network you'd like to share, I don't ask for referrals, but I will say, please forward this to anyone you think might be interested in. I think that and I know your mileage may vary for my recruiter friends. Some people do this really, really well. To me, it feels intrusive, but I will absolutely all day long offer to connect with anyone that you think might be interested in talking to me. So I'll be like, give everybody my phone number. I don't care. Pass it around like confetti. I don't care. Like, if there's somebody you think could fit this role or would be interested in talking to me, share my info. I don't need you to give me your friends' names because you don't know me and trust me yet, but you are absolutely welcome to give my info to anybody that you think would be interested in it. So that's my approach. I get actually a lot of referrals that way too, because I try to be very non-pushy. I don't like pushy. I just treat people the way I want to be treated, because that's so hard. So anyway, so I'm just closing a loop, right? I'm like, hey, if this is valuable to somebody in your network, please share. Otherwise, I'm gonna let you go. If things change on your end, call me. If you 6 months from now, find yourself in a different place, call me, I'll be here, right? That's how I leave it. Y'all, interestingly enough, I've got about an 80% response rate on that third email. And I don't know if it's because there's a little bit of a takeaway there, like I'm not calling you anymore, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute. Or, and again, a lot of those responses are, hey, thanks, but no thanks, and that's fine. That's okay. That's just, again, another way to close the loop. But it's just interesting that it seems like that's kind of the third and final is like, oh yeah, shit, she was serious. There really is a job she wants to talk to me about. Okay, well, yeah, let me call her then. So kind of an interesting tidbit I've noticed. So that's my approach. Again, I would just encourage all of my recruiter friends, you know what works best for you, right? Like, it's not for me to tell you that there's one size fits all approach here or that my way is the right way. My way is the right way for me. It's what's brought me success. It's what's worked for my clients. It's what's worked for my sourcing partners and people that I've trained. You may be fishing in a completely different pond and you're going to need a completely different approach. That's okay, as long as we don't forget what we started with, which is the candidate preferences. And if y'all do not see the responses that we get, the posts that we see written about us, if you do not see that as an opportunity to learn what they really want and to also pick up on those buying signals. If somebody's responding and saying, well, what's the compensation? They're literally opening the door for you to provide information that may interest them. Why would you consider that a red flag? I know we're way over time here, but I gotta get this last thought out. If you really think that an otherwise viable prospect asking for compensation is a red flag, you're a red flag. How about that? Just saying. All right, y'all. This video is twice as long as it should have been, but I had a lot to say. So, as always, I hope that helps. I hope that you will try out some different approaches, change up your searches, change up your templates, your outreach, and for the love of God, listen to your target audience. They're talking to you. They're telling you what they want. Are you picking up what they're laying down? We'll see you next week.